introduce Suzanne. She is a personal transformation guide and devoted to supporting her clients uncover their hidden blind spots that are eclipsing their success. Her unique skill set is to help you uncover where your biggest blind spot is and what it needs to transform into and how to leverage it so you can get the results you crave in your personal and professional life. And I'm so excited about this topic because I think as a business club, we're a business social club, but as we tend to lean kind of businessy, and all of our virtual salon sessions and in-person salon sessions have been very business focused. So I'm excited to bring a little of the personal aspect to it. So Suzanne, thank you for being a virtual speaker for us today. You and your husband Nathan have been Arid Club members for a little over 2 years now. So welcome.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you to everyone on this Zoom call. I'll give you a little brief introduction and then we'll jump right into the topic, which is uncover your hidden blind spot, the #1 key to up level at work and home. So I can kind of tailor this to business-minded folks like you because hidden blind spots are that key when you're wanting to up level at work. So like Sherry said, I facilitate personal transformation. And how I do this is I guide you through a 3-phase, 90-day transformational process with a focus on you making really big breakthroughs on your personal and professional goals. So a little background on my work experience. So for the past 16 years, I've been working with the mind, the body, and the energetics via therapeutic massage, and then transitioned into personal coaching and transformative guidance. And the 10 years prior, I used my electrical tech degree to basically troubleshoot machines for a semiconductor company. Now on the surface, it may look like those two careers are completely different, but they do have something in common. So the first 10 years, I was troubleshooting issues in machines. And then the past 16 years, I have been troubleshooting issues in the mind and body. So essentially, I've been working with electrical energy, both in electrical machines and in electrical humans' minds and body for pretty much a total of 26 years. So to me, really everything is energy, and all of my work uses energetic principles. So it's the energetics underneath what's actually going on at the surface. So I want to talk about you. Enough about me, right? And so before I get into it, I really don't consider myself a teacher. I'm more of a facilitator. So it's a little bit challenging to be just talking to the computer screen when actually I just want to like get my hands in there and start working. But because really where I shine is when I'm interacting with you. So feedback is everything when it comes to this kind of work. So I'm going to share some information to give you some context, and then I would love to have a discussion with you. So as I talk for the next few minutes, you can just jot down some questions you have, or if you have, real life situations that have come up for you, whether, during this COVID-19 or, how it's affected your business or your personal life. And if any of those questions or comments, if you want to jot those down and then we can talk about them later, I would love to do that. So I'm going to get into some notes here because I can go on a tangent and I can easily get off track. So I'm going to get my notes lined up here. All right, so today's topic, uncover your hidden blind spot, the number one key to up level at work and home. So first of all, what is a blind spot? And why would you care about uncovering your hidden blind spot? So a blind spot is basically what you're not seeing or what you cannot perceive or what you're not aware of. So blind spots are those places where we lack clarity or insight or awareness of ourselves. It's kind of like, how you can see things in other people, but it's really hard to see things in yourself. That's what a blind spot is. And sometimes you can become rigid and locked into those patterned areas, and you can feel stuck because you're in these repetitive loops, these repetitive patterns. And the blind spots could be undermining your business goals, or even the blind spots may be causing disconnection in your relationships, at work or at home or, with people on the street. It's something that it's hard. It's hard because we can't really see those blind spots, and it's harder because they're invisible. So we all know what a blind spot is in our car, right? It's that area where a person's visual view is obstructed. Well, we also have blind spots in our awareness or our perception. But again, that tricky thing with perception is the hidden blind spots, they're invisible. We physically cannot see them with our eyes. And we only know they are there because they are causing us pain in some way. So, for example, we might be, there's so many examples that I can think of where we can feel where a blind spot is, but we don't really know where it is. Like if we keep sabotaging our success in business, or we keep getting into those challenging relationship dynamics, but we don't really know why. Whereas if you're in a car and you run into something that was in your blind spot, you will know right away because there will be damage to your car. And it's usually super expensive to fix, even those little dings, right? It really hits you where it counts. So you have more of a physical awareness about how that blind spot affected the damage of your car. But when it comes to the perception blind spots, it's a little more challenging because you don't really know why or what's happening, but you know that there's just something that's not working correctly, or how you'd like, or you're not meeting your goals, right? So you don't know what you don't know. And it's even trickier when you're trying to fix something that you can't see. So there's really good news. And this is really what is on the second part of the topic, which is the number one key to uncover your blind spots. And that's what it is this. The good news is there is a valuable key you have that you can find these blind spots and get unstuck, like right now. And that key is working with your triggers. So triggers, right? Have you heard that word? Have you experienced it? I know I have. So your triggers are the key to help you break through those rigid patterns. So what are triggers? Well, triggers are any external stimulus that gives rise to discomfort inside of you. Triggers are those annoyances that seem to come out of nowhere, but they definitely get your attention, right? Triggers are really the ultimate pattern interrupt. And if used well, they can help you expose your blind spots. Even if you don't know what your blind spots are, you definitely know what pushes your buttons or what bothers you, right? You know what those things are. And you might experience them sometimes even on a daily basis with certain people or certain events that are playing on the news or whatever it is. Something pushes your buttons, right? So let's recap. So a blind spot is an obstruction that blocks your perception. And then a trigger is an external stimulus that gets your attention to something hidden in your blind spot. So triggers don't feel good, but they can help you by bringing attention to what you need to be aware of to reveal your blind spot. So you've gone through significant changes in the last few weeks, right? You've been pushed. You've been thrown out of your comfort zone. You've had to deal with so much. All of us have in different ways, depending on how we've created our lives, how we've set up our lives. Those obstacles, maybe that we didn't think were there, now all of a sudden in our face. I mean, we've had to deal with so much. And you've probably been triggered at least a few times. So this COVID-19 pandemic has really disrupted the status quo of our everyday lives, which has exposed hidden blind spots in the way we work, in the way we live, and the way we relate to each other. I mean, it's challenging for me. I love the outdoors. I love nature. And I've, walked on the green belt and, normally it's like, hey, how's it going? Nice day. And still some people do, but then there's also this hesitation and this withdrawal. And so for people like myself that just love people, it's like, I want to hug everyone and I can't. So that's, for me, that's just one of the small challenges. I have some other challenges, but I get it. I'm right there with you. So what challenges have you had? And have you noticed triggers exposing any kind of blind spots for you in your life? And for right now, I want to take a pause because I don't want to brush over something that's really important. And that is those that are particularly vulnerable to the energetic feelings of shame or guilt. When I use the word trigger, I mean, just the word can maybe even take a little zing to your nervous system. Like, oh, what does she mean? Or blind spots, like, am I going to get exposed here? Like, is this, I feel vulnerable, right? Well, I totally get it, because the things that are underneath the surface are usually the things that we kind of keep private, and we defend against anything that could expose that. And so I totally get it. It's vulnerable to even share, what challenges you have. But if you can, right in this moment, just take a moment and take a breath. And take a breath in through your nose and out your mouth. And just get really present. Right here, right now. Because it's easy to check out and, find yourself triggered by the past, or even embarrassments or feelings of being exposed. It's it's so important. And that's why I do this work, because there's a place of, I'll just say it, there's a place of sacredness when you're walking somebody through triggering experiences for them that maybe have, were developed from something in the past that is re-emerging. And I'm watching with people around me in my practice that the past experience of feeling vulnerable has come up for a lot of people, whether it has to do with their health or their finances or the way that they do their life. It's really bumping up against the status quo, this whole experience that we're in. So again, I really want to open up and have an open discussion. So again, I want to pose this question, and then I'm gonna close my mouth down, and I'd love to listen to you. Is what challenges have you had recently, and have you noticed triggers exposing any blind spots for you in your life?
Everybody should be able to unmute themselves if they want to share. But I'll break the ice and go first.
Okay.
I've noticed the removal of a trigger in our house because I don't have to get the kids anywhere. And I've noticed being a lot more patient and gracious and a lot less yelling. And so I think that removal of that trigger actually revealed a blind spot that because we were talking about this before the webinar started, that I'm more creative and a lot more loose with our schedule. And so it is stressful getting out of the house in the morning sometimes, because I'm, unlike my husband, who is left brain, right? He is very rigid to his schedule, and for him, it's no problem. But because I fail to plan accordingly or don't leave enough time, then that's a big stress in our day.
That is awesome. That is such a revealing. I bet a lot of people can relate to that. In fact, I've heard some people say, I did not realize I was running around with my kids, to soccer and dance and this and this and this, and now we're not doing that. And as a family, we're reevaluating all these activities that we were filling up our calendar that were actually causing so much stress and so much heartache, and we weren't even having the family time that we desired.
Yeah, you weren't even evaluating, like, is this the best use of our time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has that have you as a family talked about it?
Not a little bit, like what it's, because I actually was saying to Daryl, I don't trust myself. Like, once everything opens back up, I think I'll just go back to planning all the things, because they're all good, evaluating, is this what we want to do, right? Like, build, protecting margin and building that in. So what I'm feeling is that's going to require teamwork.
Yeah.
Because I will go far and fill our schedule with all the things, all the social things.
Yeah. That's a really good example. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll go on mute so someone else can share.
And if no one has anything to share, because sometimes, like I said, this is, and please feel free to jump in when I'm talking, if you do have something, if something pops in. But this is what's really interesting, is that because of the invisible nature of blind spots, it's almost hard to talk about it, because we feel a lot of things in our bodies. We have body sensations. We know when something feels like there's a gut punch, or we're getting a lot of pressure in our head, but we don't know where that's coming from. Like, actually, I have a question for you, Sherry. When you were doing all the things and you had all these time pressures, did you experience any body sensations?
Yeah, for sure. You can feel the, like, your shoulders just rising up, the stress, of, oh, we're running late, or we got to get this done so we can go to that, or, get your shoes on, let's go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wonder, back in time when, which I'm not a proponent of going back in time and going back to simplicity, in the sense of like, come on, we're in a forward motion, but there is a simplicity. Like, we don't want to go back to, dirt floors and no electricity and no washing machines, right? That would be really challenging. We could, but that would be really challenging. So while all of these industrial innovations have afforded us extra time, where we don't have to, all of us women go down to the river and wash our clothes and have our chat session. Now we just throw them in the washing machine, and then while the wash is going, we can go take, the kids to Little League or whatever. So there's been this, I guess where I'm going with this is, I don't even know where I'm going with this.
Well, with that extra time, what have we done with it?
Yes, there you go. There you go. Absolutely. Because time, as we all have experienced too, we're like, what day is it? What, unless we're appointment driven, even during the weekdays, it's really hard to keep track of time and days. So it's almost like this time has been like usurped into something else. And so we're re-navigating our lives with this time. And then the other thing is, there's this dangling question mark of, when is it going to be fill in the blank? Some people say normal. Some people say, when can I go back to work, or when can I go back to the gym, or when can I go? So there's like this dangling time thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
which is really interesting.
With so much uncertainty, right?
Absolutely.
No one knows. There's all that, and there's differing opinions from experts. So there's no guarantees. The club will open back up on Monday the 18th, but if it meets this criteria and we don't backslide, and and all the things that we normally do, club night, that's 100 people at least or more. So when will that, and so every different industry avenue has the same questions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're trying to identify, right now, where our blind spots are, it's interesting because you talked about uncertainty. You brought up the word uncertainty. And uncertainty for us humans is like, we are always strategizing to figure out a way to mitigate risk and to make it so that we have the right answer and we're not going to lose anything, right? So there's this, and that's kind of this underlining theme, that is very instinctual, because we want to survive. And so uncertainty is always kind of in that right in the forefront of our mind. So a good area to look where your blind spots are hiding is where you try to be certain. And the certainty is an indicator of, I want to be certain. So for example, if you feel threatened, if your status quo is threatened, you're going to grasp for something, whatever that is. If you're physically threatened, you're sliding down a shale rocks side of a mountain, you're going to try to grab onto that big tree or that big whatever to gain certainty that you're not going to die, right? So in things that we're experiencing right now, which is this invisible threat that is in the form of this virus, we're trying to grasp for things that we know. And one of the places that you can identify where your hidden blind spots are is to look at your strengths. And I know this is a weird place to start, but I like to start with strengths because whatever you're good at is also what you can kind of overcompensate with. And it can be used kind of against you. So like one of my strengths is like, I want to find the truth, right? So I'm a truth teller. I tell the truth. And at the same time, at certain times, it's not good to tell the truth because it can actually hurt people, right? So there's a delicate balance. So if I'm trying to find certainty in this very uncertain, I'm going to go seek the truth. I'm going to be like looking for the truth. Where's the truth? Who done it? You know, all that stuff. And it's a mind mess because it's a false sense of security, even though in my everyday life, to be open and truthful and be in alignment with what I say and what I do is it feels so good, and it just feels like breathing for me. It can also be the thing I try to grasp onto when I'm uncertain. So my blind spots are hidden in me trying to find truth, because sometimes that's just a false sense of security. Because even if you had the truth of whatever, the virus is still there, you know? So I like to start with strengths. Some people are overachievers. Some people are good listeners. Some people are peacekeepers. Some people have all the answers. Some people are super funny. Some are the logical one, you know, the successful one. Some people are just super intelligent. And so with those strengths, also on the underbelly of those strengths are something that when you get scared, when you get frightened, when you get vulnerable, you'll kind of grasp for those strengths. And also another area, can you relate to anything, Sherry?
For sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
So like even keeping, sorry.
Elizabeth here. I was just going to say that makes a lot of sense to me too. Just looking at the strengths and how you end up using them to almost, I almost think not just to find certainty, but feel like how that could be causing me to miss opportunities because I'm not willing to be uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's a good one. Missed opportunities. I can totally relate. Yeah. I'm a really good listener. I will listen, and that's how I get to really extract and pull all that really good, juicy gold nuggets from those blind spots, and I can really go in and see where they are. But sometimes being a really good listener, like when I'm with large groups of people, I usually don't talk that much. I'm usually just observing and listening. And if there's other leaders around me that are, that are leading better than me, I just let them lead because I don't want to lead, so it's sometimes I miss some opportunities because I kind of fall back into my deep listening, and I don't create opportunities in some areas. Do you have a specific example, Elizabeth?
Well, I think a lot of things have popped into my mind, but when you were listing things you think about your strengths, and I think that I can be overly logical or overly serious, and then I miss opportunities to be light and playful. And I think that actually can affect me, not just of course, in my personal life, but also in my business life.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I remember those 10 years at Micron Technology. It was be logical, have the data, use your intuition. Are you kidding me? No way. That'll get you in trouble. Right. So you overcompensate and you start developing these strengths, quote unquote, which are strengths actually. Like I love logic. I love blending logic with intuitive sense making. It's your whole brain operating and firing, all at once. That's pretty awesome that us humans have that capability. But there are times when, like it's the overcompensation, like you said, Elizabeth, and we do miss opportunities. There's another area that is interesting for you to identify where the blind spot is hiding. And that's in the rewards program that we have in our being. Those strategic habits that we use to get some kind of payoff or reward, like getting approval or being liked or getting recognized or, getting attention or getting your way. There's so many ways that you can find your blind spots. And, on some level, like you see it with kids, sometimes they look like they're kind of being manipulative, but then you can see right through them. But the thing is then they age, and those things that got them what they wanted actually get them success, and it's like, whoa, so they're getting rewarded, for these things that are actually strategic habits. And so and everything that I share, I don't see like a right and a wrong. I see that just being able to kind of look at all the nuances, and when we are going into our blind spot of that reward program. So for example, like I appreciate being in relationship with people, and it feels good when somebody lights up and they smile and you smile at them, and that to me is a reward. It's like, oh my gosh, we just made a connection. And I think there are these then there's also these ways where I might be really mad, and then I might be smiling when I'm mad, and it's a disconnect in my body. Like I'm actually angry. I'm not happy that you just said that. You know what I mean? So it's like there's this, even now, like it's hard for me not to smile. It's hard for me to not find that joy. But then sometimes it can make me be a little naive maybe, or it can I can like lose sight of what's actually at hand because I'm wanting to see the best, or I'm wanting to see the highest, most expansive view of this person. But then it's like, darn it, they did it again, So those are our blind spots where we get rewards and these strategic habits where you get some kind of payoff. The other thing, so we talked about strengths, rewards. The one area you can find your blind spots, and this is a really, again, something that it'd be hard to talk about in business, but it happens in business all the time, which is shame. People get embarrassed, and sometimes people, when they, directors, when they talk to maybe an employee, they might say something like, well, you should have known, you should have known. And then all of a sudden that person is triggered, and they're like, get flushed with this energy. And shame is not an emotion. it's a flush of energy. It's a rush of extreme, like hot flash, if you will, or hot or cold sweats. You know, something happens in the body, a body sensation. And it's a feeling of being vulnerable and fully exposed. So perhaps if you look at that example, perhaps the director never even said you should have done something, but that's what the person heard. And actually the director said, I would have liked it done this way. So it was like a positive critique, but maybe it was heard in a way that was misunderstood, right? So shame is one of the best ways to find where you feel shame. And when you get triggered with shame is where your blind spots are. Like, oh, I can't stand feeling stupid. That's like in my blind spot. You know, I really take pride in being an A student. I love being, you know, at the head of the class, you know. So when my director just said, you, whatever, all I hear is I did something wrong. I made a mistake and I'm not an A student anymore. Right? So that could be in the blind spot. And then what I might do is overcompensate. I may, you know, begin to make excuses, or I may say, well, you know, and try to overcorrect the issue instead of just taking responsibility for it. Like, okay, yeah, you know what? If I really look at it, maybe I could have done something different, you know? So, I mean, and that, so shame is huge when you're identifying where your blind spots are hiding. So look at your strengths, look at your own internal reward program, and then look at where shame shows up in your life. How does that sit with, like, just even, I mean, that it might, I mean, how are y'all feeling right now? Because this is all of a sudden, it's like I felt as soon as I even use the word shame, it's like, meow, like everything just goes.
This is great.
I missed it. Did you hear, Elizabeth? What did you say?
I said that I just laughing because that was exactly right.
Exactly right.
Yeah, it's even interesting right now. We're seeing a lot of the strengths, the rewards, the shame playing out with this COVID-19. You know, some people are really pulling their strength up to get through this. Some people are overcompensating, you know, doing things too quick, too fast. It's not the right time, but they're like, but this is the way I've always done it. I push through, I bulldoze through anything. I can accomplish anything, right? So it's really interesting how this is showing up. And then also, you know, we're in a social dynamic. We're, you know, not wanting to hurt our neighbors' feelings if we go out without a mask, or, you know, so there's a lot of challenges even with the social aspect of this. And let's, you know, call it what it is. There's a lot of mud flinging between people of what's right and what's wrong. And a lot of shame is being thrown and being used as a way to, you know, get your point across. And so these are all blind spots that are being exposed in the human collective, really, in how we treat one another, how we see one another. So it's really, really interesting to just kind of, from my point of view, from as a transformation guide, it's like, oh my gosh, I used to be doing this like in my little, you know, room with one other person, and now I'm seeing it like out on the whole global scale. It's just amazing. It's like we're all going through this transformation process.
I agree. Everyone has so much more time to reflect and think about these things, and also be vocal in the whole addition of social media. And I've learned it. You don't have to have the answers, and you don't have to have an opinion, about everything.
Totally. It goes back to that, what are the two things we want? We want the answer,
Mm-hmm.
and we want no risk. Right? So it's a phenomenal thing we're going through. It's funny. So back in the day, I was only doing deep tissue massage therapy in my practice. And I had what's called this modality that I used. It was called trigger point therapy. And basically, it's an effective technique where you release a tight muscle with trigger point therapy. So a trigger point in the physical body is when there's a knot in the muscle. And when you put pressure on that bump, it gives rise to pain because it's basically hypersensitive to the touch. And the cool thing is if you put sustained pressure on it for at least 30 to 60 seconds, the muscle will naturally release and let go. But if the person pulls away or they fight it and they don't allow the process to happen, the trigger point will basically remain or get worse. So emotional triggers are really similar. And if you don't deal with your triggers and let the tension go, they will continue to cause you to be hypersensitive to external stimulus. So you won't even know, like things will be totally normal, a trigger will happen, and all of a sudden you get this inflamed response and you're like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. This is actually, now when I think back, when Suzanne was talking, when I get triggered, this is exposing a blind spot. And that trigger response is like a defense response. And now you can see that your blind spots are not to be seen as weaknesses, but as kind of behaviors or things that get in the way of fully using your strengths. I mean, can you imagine if you walked around on this planet and you didn't get triggered by people or ideas or belief systems or information? You didn't get triggered. You just were like, wow, that's an interesting perspective. Interesting. Wow. Can you imagine just walking around with like that? Like your stress level would go down. Think about employees that work together. Like, wouldn't it be great if you could just share with somebody a feedback or critique on their project and the other person wouldn't go home and cry? It's like, that would be awesome, right? So there's, did you have something?
Oh, I was just going to say, it makes me think of the saying, if something pushes your buttons, it's because you had a button to push.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't really agree with the you spot it, you got it, because sometimes that's actually not true. Like where somebody will say, well, if you spot something and you judge something in someone else, it means that it's in you. It's actually sometimes when you get triggered, because for example, if I'm in a store and I see a child like just get whacked across the face because maybe the child was crying, not loud, but they were crying. Obviously they just got abuse, right? Like that was it. I watched the whole thing. I'm going to get triggered and my mama bear, even though I don't have children, my mama bear inside of me is going, whoa, 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 whoa. What did I just witness? Right? So is that I'm an abuser? No. but collectively as a human being, that we, like, a lot of people would be triggered by that. So sometimes it is that you spot it, you got it, but sometimes a trigger is really effective to put you into a state of action to do something that is in the right amount of intensity at the right time with the right person, or get the authorities or what have you, right? So sometimes a trigger is not a negative thing. It's something, and that's where I use my triggers wisely, is when it fires something up in me that is important for me to address. Now, if I get triggered and I'm ruminating for like 10 days because somebody said something, I got issues. It's me, and I'm gonna go a little deep on that one, because something is off within me, and I have not resolved some structure, some architecture inside my being that needs to be dismantled, needs to be opened up, needs to be released, needs to have that trigger point therapy, so that knot can be expressed and released and resolved. So
Yeah, that was a helpful distinction. I have heard that if you spot it, you got it. So, but I think it was important to clarify the difference. And now I really want a massage.
yeah, I know. Me too. Oh my
Right?
gosh.
I'll
Me
be glad when
too.
all that's back open.
I know. So let's do this. There's three things you can do to begin to expose your blind spots, and this will show you. I'm going to pull up my notes again. So this will help you to let down your triggered defenses. So there's three things that I do on a regular basis. There's three things. One, track and question your triggers, and I'll go into it. Number two, ask for honest feedback. And then three, shame-free listening. So track and question your triggers. This is really fun, because I think one of my probably lives that I could have expressed in this life was to be a private detector. Like, I could have been a really good private detector for sure. And I didn't express it, but I think I do it with myself and as I'm helping others. And this is track and question your triggers. So write down what the trigger symptoms are, what the symptoms are, like where you feel the trigger in your body, or what that person said that pissed you off, or what you heard and it just doesn't settle well. What are the symptoms? What are the symptoms that you can see on kind of the surface? And then what the challenges are, or what your frustrations are. Write all that stuff down. Like, what are you challenged with? What are the frustrations? What's that like? Oh, if I could do this, then I wouldn't be triggered anymore. So be your own detective and take an objective approach. And this is what I like about my career at Micron, is that 10 years, I did a lot of objective data collecting, or, you would deduce deduce down, how to troubleshoot a problem. And by doing it, it was really cool because I was dealing with a machine. So the machine didn't have feelings. With humans, it's a little different. But if you can take the same objective approach to yourself and not, judge yourself, and take a positive approach without that harsh judgment. Because here's the trick. How do I say this? How the blind spot got developed in the first place and pushed into the shadows of your mind and your body was probably through someone else judging you or shaming you. So during this process of tracking and questioning your triggers, the last thing you want to do is judge yourself or shame yourself or say, oh, I should have done it this way or I should have done it that way, because that's just going to push the trigger even deeper into your being. So you have to be your own friend with this part, okay? So that's the track and question your triggers. Then asking for honest feedback. Ask others, like people you trust, who will be honest. And this is the important thing. You have to pick people who have your best interest. So these people that have your best interest, sometimes they're not the people that are going to give you like the sugar-coated answer, because they actually want to see you grow. They want to see you, move past your own limitations. So when you're asking for honest feedback, you're not asking for what you want to hear, because this is going to help you get triggered in the moment, because you're going to feel uncomfortable, because they're going to be sharing something with you that rises some discomfort, because they might say something. So this is what's really important for your responsibility to do, which is you need to be grateful for that help. So get in the habit of thanking them, even if what they share is uncomfortable to hear. So just keep reminding them, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me this, because these are the things that I can't see. And, it's better for me to practice here at home. Like Nathan and I do this all the time, because we just have that kind of a relationship where we really, really trust each other. And we know that we can speak honestly with each other, because then we can play at home with these uncomfortable things and vent it's safe, right, to do it there. Because then when we go out in the world and we're dealing with somebody that is, affecting us negatively, we won't have to play that out there. We can play it out with that discomfort at home. So asking for honest feedback. Then the third thing, and these are things that you can do to expose your blind spots and how to let your triggered defenses let them down, which is this third thing, which is shame-free listening. So this is so interesting. So for me, I didn't feel a lot of shame growing up, but I felt a lot of guilt. Like for some reason, I always felt guilty for doing something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong. So I kind of had the cousin of shame, which was guilt. And so when I listen, sometimes what happened for me before I did this shame-free listening, I would go into this, oh, I feel bad. I feel guilty. Like, I don't know why, it just was like that. So I had to get over that. But so shame-free listening is this: be willing to receive feedback without shame. And notice when you get a flush of energy, or a flush of, oh, I feel guilty, or I feel like I did something wrong. And in that moment, what I always do is I breathe. Because as soon as you feel shame, you forget to breathe. And it's like, oh God, I'm going to go small. I'm going to try to make my body as small as I can, and no one will see me, right? That's kind of like the energetic thing that happens when you get embarrassed or you feel exposed. So instead, I open up my heart. So when I'm listening, I open my heart, and I do this like a lot. Open my heart, I breathe. And if somebody's talking to me and maybe they have a bone to pick with me, I listen, and I realize no shame. They have something significant to say. Okay. Maybe I don't agree with it, but they are saying it, so it's important for them. Okay. So it's like this, all of a sudden the channel opens up to my listening, so that I don't clamp down and defend against what is happening, such that then I'm in for a fight. So breathing, really allowing the embarrassment or the shame to run through your body without plugging it up by contracting your body or trying to make yourself small. That never works. So this is like mastery level ninja tricks to being an emotionally intelligent person, whether you're at work, whether you're at home. The shame-free listening, the honest feedback, getting honest feedback, and then tracking and questioning your triggers is really, I mean, it's high level work, and it's completely rewarding. It's humbled me. It's created a sense of compassion for myself and others. It's given me the freedom, I think, in my voice even, to be able to speak where I'm in alignment with my values and how I feel and what I want to share. It's this whole process almost like it's like it declogs all of your energy in your body so that you can be a pure expression of who you really are. So I know that, like you said, Sherry, you normally don't have these kinds of talks, but I think it's really applicable to the business world as well as our everyday life. And this is really all about emotional intelligence. And, you know, in the business world, we do talk a lot about emotional intelligence and how to be emotionally intelligent. And this right here, being able to be open and honest about your uncovering your blind spots and working with your own triggers is, I think, the number one way to have emotional intelligence.
Right. I agree 100%. It was so good. I love the shame-free listening and how you broke that down and just described the physical opening your heart and not shrinking back. And because that would be your human reaction, just when you get rejected with some, you know, when you're getting honest feedback. So I love that, just describing the posture of it. So good.
Yeah.
Do you want to open it up for questions?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. If there's any questions, if there's any comments.
I think everyone should just come off mute so we can hear their lovely voices.
Yeah. I get really excited about this stuff. So sometimes I'm like popping through my.
I do have to agree with the times I've interacted with you personally. I mean, that's when you shine. You just like draw people in, and I'm like, I want to tell you everything.
And I'm a vault. You tell me, and I'm a vault. Stays right here. No. Looks like we're at the top of the hour. Is it 1? Yeah, 1 o'clock.
It is 1. Just thank everybody for joining us today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
Pardon?
I said I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Who is this talking? I can't see.
This is Mark Bannister.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you. Did you have one takeaway?
I've got some things to think about, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to just go to sleep on this stuff and then wake up and maybe think about it again. It's a lot. And at the same time, I think it's really natural too. And this is a great time to be open to really having that whole body experience in the way we're navigating our life, you know, professionally, personally.
Okay. Well, if no one else has anything to say.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, hi, Jody.
Hi. Oh, I hope you can't see me.
No,
I can just, I
just saw your name pop up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Well, thanks
Okay,
again.
I'm signing out.
Okay, bye, Jody.
Bye.
Thanks for sharing your expertise on all this.
Oh, my pleasure.